Today, we're diving into the architecture of learning itself. Think of this as a blueprint for anyone who's ever felt like they're just spinning their wheels and wants to finally start making some real, actual progress. So let's just jump right in with a question I think we've all asked ourselves at some point. You put in the hours, right? The books are open, you're at your desk, but then when you actually need the information, it's just not there. So frustrating. Why on earth does this happen? Well, the answer, more often than not, is something called passive studying. But here's the good news, and I really want you to hear this. This isn't about you not being smart enough. It's about using the wrong strategy. And that's a problem we can absolutely solve, and we're going to solve it right now. Okay, so to fix the problem, we first have to really understand it. So we're going to walk through five common study traps that create this illusion of learning. They make you feel super productive, but in reality, they're the very things holding you back. So trap number one is the big one, passive studying itself. It's kind of the default mode for most of us, just reading, maybe highlighting a few things, watching some videos. And yeah, it feels like learning, but your brain isn't really doing any of the heavy lifting. I love this analogy because it just clicks. You wouldn't expect to get stronger by watching someone else lift weights, would you? Of course not. Well, it's the exact same idea here. You can't build mental muscle by just being a spectator to information. You have to actually engage with it. And that leads us perfectly into the second trap, confusing the number of hours you're sitting at a desk with the actual work you've accomplished. It's such an easy mistake to make, right? Because time is so easy to measure, but it is so misleading. Just think about it this way. An engine that's just idling is burning fuel, but it's going absolutely nowhere. Your 4 hours of kind of sort of studying with your phone buzzing next to you, that might only be worth about 30 minutes of real deep learning. The clock is not the scoreboard here. All right, trap number 3 is a huge one, especially today. This massive imbalance between input and output. We are just flooded with information. We spend all our time consuming, reading one more article, watching one more video, taking pages of notes, but we almost never produce anything with it. This leaking bucket metaphor is just perfect. If all you're doing is pouring information in without ever practicing pulling it back out, what we call recall, that bucket is never ever going to get full. The knowledge just leaks right out. You only plug those leaks when you practice active recall. Now, trap number 4 is a sneaky one. It's perfectionism. It feels like you're working so hard, right? You're reorganizing your notes, making these beautiful summaries, but a lot of the time, that's just a clever way to avoid the really hard stuff, like trying those practice questions that actually build your skill. It's motion, not action. And the final trap kind of brings this all home, the lack of a feedback loop. See, when you learn without ever testing yourself, you create what psychologists call a memory illusion. The information feels familiar, so your brain goes, oh yeah, I know this. But familiarity is not the same as mastery. You haven't proven anything until you can pull it out of your brain without any help. Okay, so we've looked at all the problems. Now let's talk about the solution. This right here is the turning point, a simple rule that is going to change the entire game for you. Here it is. This is your new definition of progress. It has nothing to do with hours spent or pages read. Real progress is simply what you can recall and apply, all on your own. That's it. It's the only metric that truly matters. So, how do we start making that kind of progress? Well, we need a plan, and I've got one for you. Here is a practical 5-step transformation that you can literally start using today. All right, we're going to break down each of these, but here's the quick overview. We've got the 50-50 rule, the recall first method, deep focus blocks, tracking your output, and finally, a weekly progress audit. Let's dive into that first one. First up, the 50-50 rule. It is so simple, it's brilliant. For every hour you plan to study, spend half that time, so 30 minutes, learning the material. But then you have to spend the other half applying it. Solve problems, try to write a summary from memory, explain it out loud to an empty room. Seriously, think of it like this. Learning is like eating, but practice is like digesting. You get zero energy from the food without digestion. Step 2 is the recall first method. This is so powerful. Instead of just rereading a chapter, you actively retrieve the information. After you learn something, you literally close the book or pause the video, and you write down everything you can possibly remember.
Then, and only then, do you go back and check to see what you missed. This is how you build strong connections in your brain and turn shaky memories into solid knowledge.
Step 3 is all about managing your energy. Forget those marathon 4-hour study sessions where you're half asleep by the end. Instead, work in short, intense bursts. The Pomodoro technique is perfect for this. 25 minutes of pure, no distractions focus, followed by a quick 5-minute break to reset. Because quality always beats duration.
Now, this brings us to step 4, and this is a really crucial shift in how you measure success. Stop tracking your time. Start tracking your output. At the end of every study session, you have to ask yourself this one question. What new questions can I solve now that I couldn't yesterday? If the answer is nothing, well, you were probably just in that passive mode. This question forces you to be honest about whether you're actually making progress. So we have all the individual steps. Now let's just zoom out a little bit and see how these practices completely change your day-to-day approach to learning. The difference is just night and day. The old passive way, you read, you highlight, you watch a video, and you end up feeling tired and thinking, wow, I studied a lot. The new active way, you learn a concept, you immediately try to solve 10 questions about it, and then you try to explain it in your own words. You're left with a tangible skill, not just a tired brain. That's real mastery. And you can support this new approach with a few simple but super powerful habits. Before you even sit down, set a specific, clear goal for the session. Get your phone out of the room, not on silent, not face down, out of the room. Try to study when you have the most mental energy, not the least. And this one is huge. Learn to recognize when your brain is full. Pushing past that point is just a waste of time. And all of this brings us to the fundamental mindset shift. If you take away one thing, let it be this. Studying is not a measure of endurance. It's not about how long you can stay in a chair. It is all about how deeply and intensely your brain is working. So now that you're armed with this new blueprint for learning, I'll just leave you with this one question. What will you choose to truly master today?